The hospital room was a cage of sterile sounds, a relentless hum of machines that had become my world for 3 weeks. The heart monitor beeped softly, a faint pulse in the dim light of the ICU at St. Joseph's Medical Center in Phoenix, Arizona. The ventilator hissed and clicked, breathing for my father, James Reed, a man who'd always been a mountain of strength, now reduced to a fragile figure under thin hospital sheets. It was October 17th, 2024, and I, Ethan Reed, hadn't slept properly in days, surviving on bitter vending machine coffee and the hard edges of a chair that felt like it was built to punish. My dad was battling a vicious case of pneumonia that had turned septic, his body fighting a war I couldn't see but felt in every bone. He was my grandfather's son, part of a line of tough, unyielding men who didn't break. Yet here we were, in a room where time dragged like a dull blade. I'd been glued to that chair, watching the steady rise and fall of his chest, when I stepped out for a quick coffee run to the cafeteria 6 minutes, tops. When I returned, the air felt wrong, colder, sharper. There she was, Margaret Voss, president of our neighborhood HOA in the quiet suburb of Willow Creek. She stood over my dad's bed, her sleek navy blazer pristine, her auburn hair cut into a severe, polished bob. Her lips curved in a smile that didn't touch her eyes, which were cold as frost. In her hand dangled a laminated visitor badge, too glossy, too new, clipped to a cheap chain. It screamed fake. She hadn't noticed me yet, her attention locked on the web of tubes and wires keeping my dad alive. My brain, foggy from exhaustion, struggled to process it. Margaret? Here? We weren't friends. My dad had been rallying neighbors against her latest HOA, scheming a $10,000 special assessment for a pointless community fountain. He called her a control freak. I called her a petty dictator who probably measured mailboxes for sport. Then her hand moved. Slow, deliberate. Her finger's nails painted a glossy coral reached past the heart monitor leads, hovering over the thick blue ventilator tube connected to my dad's throat. My coffee cup slipped, hitting the linoleum with a dull thud. The sound snapped something in me. Time stretched, then collapsed. Her fingers closed around the tube, her knuckles tightening. My world teetered on the edge of collapse in that sterile, beeping room. Instinct took over, raw and primal. I lunged across the small space, my hand slamming the red code gray button on the wall. A piercing alarm erupted, a shrieking wail that shook the room. Red strobes flashed, painting everything in frantic pulses. The heavy ICU door slammed shut with a boom, the magnetic lock clunking into place. We were sealed in me, my unconscious father, and this woman in a blazer who'd just crossed a line no one could come back from. Margaret spun around, her fake smile gone, replaced by a snarl of pure venom. "What are you doing?" she hissed, her voice sharp as a blade, the same tone she used to silence neighbors at HOA meetings. I didn't answer. I planted myself between her and my dad, arms out, a human barricade. The alarm screamed, the heart monitor spiked, and my pulse thundered in my ears. Fists pounded the door, voices shouted outside. Help was coming, but for those endless seconds, it was just us. I knew, with a bone-deep certainty, I'd stopped something unspeakable. The lock buzzed, the door flew open, and head nurse Clara stormed in, her usual calm replaced by a razor-sharp focus. Her eyes flicked from my dad to me, then locked on Margaret. Right behind her was Officer Daniel Hayes, a broad-shouldered cop with a face like stone. The hallway was chaos: nurses, security, police radios crackling. I pointed at Margaret, my voice raw. She tried to pull his ventilator. "She doesn't belong here. Get her out." Margaret's demeanor shifted, her face morphing into a mask of wounded innocence. "This is a misunderstanding," she cried, clutching her purse. "I'm a neighbor, here to pray for him." Clara's voice cut through, colder than the room's air. "This unit is restricted. You're not on the visitor list, Ms. Voss." Officer Hayes stepped forward. "Ma'am, come with me." Margaret puffed up, indignant. "I'm the HOA president. I have rights." My aunt, Lila, appeared in the doorway, her eyes narrowing at the scene. "Margaret, sweetheart, your pool rules don't work in an ICU," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. A security guard stifled a chuckle. Margaret made a mistake. She tried to shove past Hayes, who grabbed her arm firmly. She shrieked, "Assault!" My control snapped. "She's not family. I roared, the words echoing over the alarms. Everyone froze. Hayes cuffed her, the metallic click of handcuffs louder than the chaos. They marched her out as nurses and families gawked. Clara checked the ventilator, her hands steady. He's stable, Ethan. You hit the button just in time. My legs shook, adrenaline draining, leaving me hollow. Lila's hand steadied me. You did good, she whispered. In a cramped hospital office, I sat with Hayes, Clara, and a risk manager named Paul. A monitor displayed the evidence, a fake clergy badge, CCTV of Margaret's purposeful stride, and ventilator logs showing a 3-second airflow dip at 4:02 p.m. My phone buzzed with a text, "Drop it, or your dad stops breathing." I showed it to the room, and Detective Sarah Monroe, who'd just arrived, took my phone like it was evidence. "This adds threats to the file," she said, texting forensics. The charges escalated: attempted murder, tampering, forgery, conspiracy. They interrogated the temp nurse, Sophie, who confessed through tears. Margaret had bullied her for weeks with HOA fines and job threats, culminating in texts instructing her to let Margaret into the ICU to fix the problem. The final text, sent at 3:50 p.m., read, "Just a tug on the tube. It'll look accidental. Your fines vanish." Margaret was arrested, but her wealthy husband posted a massive bail. Her lawyer spun tales of a misunderstood neighbor. I met with a lawyer, Diane, and we secured a protective order, 100 yards from Street Joseph's, our home, or us. I thought it would hold her. I was wrong. 2 days later, in the hospital lobby, Margaret strode in, wearing a defiant coral blazer, smirking. She stood just inside the doors, daring me. I didn't scream. I dialed 911, my voice steady as I reported the violation. Officer Hayes, nearby, arrested her again. The lobby froze. Coffee cups paused. A kid dropped a teddy bear. "You're in violation," Hayes said, cuffing her. Her smirk vanished. "This is harassment," she sputtered. A gift shop clerk muttered, "This ain't a potluck, lady." In court, DA Michael Chun laid out the case with icy precision. Judge Elena Torres revoked Margaret's bail, her gavel a thunderclap. Neighbors came forward with folders of HOA abuses fines for trivialities like unapproved flower pots or slightly tall grass. My dad had been their champion, organizing against Margaret's fountain scheme. Our living room became a war room, neighbors compiling evidence for a class action lawsuit and HOA recall. Lila brought coffee and quipped, "This isn't an HOA. It's a mafia with better lawns." The recall meeting in the Willow Creek Clubhouse was electric. I presented charts of spiked fines and shady contracts, then played the ICU footage. Gasps filled the room as Margaret's hand reached for the tube. Her texts to Sophie flashed on screen. In the problem, her jailhouse rant, patched in via phone, sealed her fate. Screaming about conspiracies, she earned new charges for intimidation. The vote to oust her was unanimous. That night, police stopped her accomplice, a man with a gun and tools circling our street, linking him to the threat text. At trial, Chin's case was relentless. The ICU video, ventilator logs, and Sophie's tearful testimony painted Margaret as a calculating predator. I testified about the terror of that moment, my voice steady. Neighbors detailed years of extortion. The jury convicted her in under 2 hours, guilty of attempted murder, tampering, forgery, conspiracy, and extortion. Judge Torres sentenced her to 9 years, full restitution, a lifetime hospital ban, and a permanent HOA injunction. Her empire crumbled. Her SUV and vacation home sold to pay the judgment. 6 months later, in April 2025, my dad was in rehab, lifting a small dumbbell, his raspy voice joking, stronger than Margaret's defense. I laughed, the sound a lifeline. The neighborhood healed Mrs. Ellen Harper, our new HOA president, rewrote fair bylaws. Kids left bikes on lawns without fear. The class action settled, refunding every dime Margaret stole. As I pushed my dad's wheelchair down our street at dusk, I felt the weight of our fight. Love, not titles, was our strength. But here's where it gets messy. Was Margaret a lone monster, or did the HOA system enable her? Could Sophie have stopped her sooner? Should my dad's resistance have been quieter to avoid her wrath? What would you have done in that ICU, facing a choice between rage and restraint? Drop your thoughts below. Let's argue it out. Like, subscribe, and join the conversation.